So we've decided to do a property auction. Now we need to pick what format to use. For the interest of time saving, I've pre-drawn our bidders and the house that they're trying to purchase. So let's say that each of them has a private valuation that they give to this house. Let's say this guy thinks the house is worth 2 million. This guy thinks it's worth 2.1. This guy thinks it's worth 2.2. And this guy, let's say 2.5. So each of them privately values the house differently. Now let's figure out who gets to buy the house. The most simple auction format is known as the sealed bid. And literally all this means is that each of them writes down on a piece of paper what they think the property is worth. We put that piece of paper in an envelope, and then we reveal what's inside the envelopes. So he puts down 2, he puts down 2.1, he puts down 2.2, and he puts down 2.5. Then we reveal that this guy was the highest bidder. The problem here is that there's a good chance he's going to walk away unhappy because he now knows that he has paid 300k more than the second highest bidder. So even though he has won, he might not be happy that he's won. We refer to this as the winner's curse. And it's something we would like to try to avoid. And one guy did come up with a solution. We move on to that. I think it's important to note that in reality, because each of these guys knows that the winner's curse is a phenomenon, it's common with this type of auction, these guys actually aren't going to bid these amounts. They're going to do what's known as shading. So instead of this guy bidding 2, he might bid 1.8, for example, and so on. He might bid 1.9, 2, and let's say 2.3. So each of them is shaded down by 200k. We still have the winner's curse, and now we actually have a situation where the bidders aren't bidding their true value. To fix this, a guy named Vickrey, an economist, came up with something slightly different. And economists love this. It's a very simple and elegant solution to the problem. We're going to encourage each of them to bid their true valuation. So let's say he bids 2 million, he bids 2.1, he bids 2.2, and he bids 2.5. We reveal what was inside the envelopes, but instead of asking him to pay 2.5, we ask him to pay the second highest bid, which is 2.2. Now we've avoided the winner's curse, potentially, but there's still a chance this guy is not going to be happy because he knows that he made this bid. He does not know that this was a real bid, necessarily. For example, if this bid came out to be, let's say, 2.49, he might be a bit suspicious and think, was that a real bid, or was that placed there to be as close as possible to his, get him to pay as close to this as possible, but this isn't a real person. He might be suspicious, basically. And it just feels weird. It feels weird to bid something and then pay someone else's bid. So for that reason, the Vickrey auction is almost not used at all. I think it was used in the early days of Google and Yahoo for advertising auctions, and then kind of ditched because it's not very popular. Let's move on to another type of auction. The next type of auction is called a Dutch auction, or sending is another way to call it. We can get rid of these bids actually, because this auction works slightly differently. So now instead of each of them writing down a bid, what's going to happen here is the auctioneer is going to start high and gradually drop their price until one of them agrees to it. So the auctioneer might say 3 million. Nobody raises a hand. 2.9. 2.8, 2.7, 2.6, 2.5, and then this guy goes, okay. And now he walks away. Problem here is we've got the same situation, really. He is potentially going to walk away with the winner's curse because he may be paying a lot more than these guys were willing to pay. There's a good chance that he walks away from that thinking, did I put my hand up too soon? Another problem with all of these, actually, is the lack of information gain. So there are similarities in the private valuations because the house is the same house. He might like the paint, he might not like the paint, he might like the kitchen, he might not like the kitchen. There are things that differ in their private valuations, but publicly there are a lot of things that are exactly the same about the house. How much it was sold for last time, how much the house next door was sold for, how much it was rented out for. This is all public information. So these guys are all going to be using publicly available information to inform their bids. All of these auction formats, this guy was not able to use any of their insights to inform his bid. He's kind of bidding in the dark. So again, not a very popular auction format. This one was kind of made famous by the Dutch tulip at flower auctions because it's quick. You can imagine in a busy marketplace the auctioneer going 3 million, 2.9, 2.8. Someone raises a hand, they get the flowers, gone. But not really used today. So the auction format that we kind of end up with is the one that I'm sure you have come across. Maybe you didn't know the name for it. Is the English or ascending auction. eBay, pretty much every property auction has decided on this auction format, and as I'm sure you're aware, instead of starting high like a Dutch auction, we start low. So let's say first bid comes in 2 million, and then the next bid comes in 2.1, and then the next bid comes in 2.2, and then the next bid comes in 2.3. Now here we have reduced the difference between the highest and the second highest bid. Now it's only 100K, and that's just for argument's sake. We could have picked smaller increments, and we would in practice. I mean, that's quite a big jump, just to avoid me saying 2.01, 2.02, 2.03. So this is just a way of saying that this guy has only paid one increment more than the second highest bidder. So we have really reduced the chances of a winner's curse. And furthermore, he has been able to use this bidding activity to help him inform his own valuation. So there has been information gain along the way. They've all kind of learned from each other, and hopefully he has not overpaid. He walks away happy. Hopefully the seller walks away happy, assuming this passed the seller's reserve price. And that's why this format is used by property auctions. A good property auction house wants everyone to walk away happy. They want people to keep using it. And that's why if you're going to do a property auction, it's almost certainly going to be an English ascending auction.